Devaki Nandanaya cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Okay, so Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 6. Dharmasya daksha duhitariya janishtamurtyam Narayano nara iti swatapa prabhava Drishvatmano bhagavato niyamavalopam Devastiyanga pratanagatitum nahasheku Dharmasya daksha duhitariya janishtamurtyam Narayano nara iti swatapa prabhava Drishvatmano bhagavato niyama valopam Devastvanga pratanagrahitum nasheku Dharmasya daksha duhitari janishtamurtyam Narayano nara iti swatapa prabhavaha Drishvatmano bhagavato niyamavalopam Devastvanga pratanakatitum nahashekum. So the words mean dharmasya, of dharma, the controller of religious principles, daksha, one of the prajapatis, duhitari, unto the daughter, ajanishta, took birth, murtyam, of the name murti, narayana, nara, iti, thus, swatapa, personal penances, prabhava, strength, dristva, by seeing, atmana, of his own, Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead, Niyama avalopam, breaking the vow, Devya, celestial beauties, Tu, but, Ananga, Pratanaha, companion of Cupid, Gatitum, to happen, Na, never, Sekhu, made possible. So we've got the translation and the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So translation, to exhibit the personal way of austerity and penance. He appeared in twin forms as Narayan and Nara in the womb of Murti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companions of Cupid, went to try to break his vows. But they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, the personality of Godhead. So the purport, the Lord being the source of everything that be, is the origin of all austerities and penances also. Great vows of austerity undertaken by the sages to achieve success in self-realization. Human life is meant for such tapasya with great vow of celibacy or brahmacharya. In the rigid life of tapasya, there is no place for the association of women. And because human life is meant for tapasya, for self-realization, factual human civilization as conceived by the system of Sanatana Dharma, or the school of four castes and of four orders of life, prescribes rigid dissociation from women in 3 stages of life. In the order of gradual cultural development, one's life may be divided into 4 divisions: celibacy, household life, retirement, and renunciation. During the first stage of life, up to 25 years of age, a man may be trained as a brahmachari under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, just to understand that woman is a real binding force in material existence. If one wants to get freedom from the material bondage of conditional life, he must get free from the attraction of the form of woman. Woman, or the fair sex, is the enchanting principle for the living entities, and the male form, especially in the human being, is meant for self-realization. The whole world is moving under the spell of womanly attraction. And as soon as man becomes united with a woman, he at once becomes a victim of material bondage under a tight knot. The desires for lording it over the material world under the intoxication of false sense of lordship specifically began just after the man's unification with the woman. The desires for acquiring a house, possessing land, having children, and becoming prominent in the society, the affection for community and the place of birth, and the hankering for wealth, which are all like phantasmagoria or illusory dreams, encumber a human being. And he is thus impeded in his progress towards self-realization. The real aim of life, the brahmachari, or a boy from the age of 5 years, especially from higher castes, namely the scholarly parents, the Brahmins, the administrative parents, the Kshatriyas, or the mercantile or productive parents, the Vaishyas, is trained until 25 years of age under the care of a bona fide guru or teacher, and under strict observance of discipline, he comes to understand the value of life, along with taking specific training for a livelihood. The brahmachari is then allowed to go home and enter the householder life and get married to a suitable woman. But there are many brahmacharis who do not go home to become householders, but they continue the life of naishtika brahmacharis without any connection with women. They accept the order of sannyas or the renounced order of life, knowing well that combination with women is an unnecessary burden that checks self-realization. Since sex desire is very strong at a certain stage of life, the guru may allow the brahmachari to marry. This license is given to a brahmachari who is unable to continue the way of naishtika brahmacharya. And such discriminations are possible for the bona fide guru. A program of so-called family planning is needed. The householder who associates with women under scriptural restrictions after a thorough training in brahmacharya cannot be a householder like cats and dogs. Such a householder after 50 years of age would retire from the association of women as a vanaprastha to be trained to live alone without the association of women. When the practice is complete, the same retired householder becomes a sannyasi, strictly separate from woman, even from his married wife. Studying the whole scheme for dissociation from woman, it appears that a woman is a stumbling block for self-realization, and the Lord appeared as Narayana to teach the principle of womanly dissociation with a vow in life. The demigods, being envious of austere life of the rigid brahmacharis, would try to cause them to break their vows by dispatching soldiers of Cupid. That's very nice of them. But in case of the Lord, it became an unsuccessful attempt when the celestial beauties saw that the Lord can produce innumerable such beauties by his mystical internal potency, and that there was consequently no need to be attracted by others externally. There is a common proverb that a confectioner is never attracted by sweetmeats. The confectioner who is always manufacturing sweetmeats has very little desire to eat them. Similarly, the Lord, by his pleasure potential powers, can produce innumerable spiritual beauties and not be the least attracted by the false beauties of the material creation. One who does not know alleges foolishly that Lord Krishna enjoyed women in his Rasa Leela in Vrindavan, or with his 16,000 married wives at Dwarika. So, Om Jnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Kuruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Saganal Raghunathantam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Raghunath Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्ते तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनीश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधु एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, so this is a very sensitive topic. So basically, if a person who is making laddus all day for a living, you would not be able to tempt him with a laddu. And so similarly in this particular shlok, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord Personality, took the form of Nar and Narayan and was performing austerities. And the denizens, the residents of the heavenly planets, they were envious of these austerities, brahmacharis kind of life, which means abstaining from the association of women, ladies, and tried to tempt the Lord with the celestial beauties, the apsaras in the heavens. Now they are extremely beautiful and have known to destroy the tapasya of many high sages and rishis. But with Lord Krishna, Narayan, he has internal potencies to produce even more beautiful women. So that's a renounced quality that he has. And he ended up producing these celestial beauties that were more beautiful. And Cupid, they had sent Cupid, the god of love, to, influence the tapasya, the sadhana, the austerity. I wasn't able to do so. He produced Urvashi, who's one of the most beautiful, more beautiful, in fact, than the ladies in the celestial heavens. And he said, well, you can take her along with you. So it didn't work. But how does this apply in a modern age to us? Because this particular shlok says association with women is a hindrance to spiritual practices. Now, this brings to mind there is a pastime that happened when Srila Prabhupada was around, and he had preached to the brahmacharis over there that, you stay away from women, and women are the cause of downfall, and they will destroy your sadhana, and there will be, spiritual progress hindrance, and you will basically go to hell. So women are bad. And after listening to this preaching, because the business of brahmacharis is to abstain from, association with ladies. That's a stage of life. So Prabhupada was preaching them these things, and at the same time he was preaching the goal of life. Our goal of life is to realize Krishna and focus on devotional service, focus on serving the spiritual master. So the brahmacharis of the temple there were some ladies there, some lady Vaishnavis who were there, and they started treating the ladies very badly. Unfortunately, it happens. It even happens here sometimes with I feel that there's a need for ladies to be present in the temple only so that they are taught some ways of communicating, proper ways of communicating with ladies. Otherwise, it just becomes an all male dominating, and the etiquette is lost somewhere because they don't have the practice of how to communicate and deal with ladies. In any case, So this particular temple, the brahmacharis were treating the ladies not so nicely. So they went to Srila Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, according to how you taught the boys, they're doing this. And Prabhupada then went back into the class and told the boys, when I said, being attracted to women, not being close to women, I meant women who are not devotees, who are involved in material life, who do not have any inclination for devotional life. And then he continued, a woman or a female who has a devotional life, who is spiritual in nature, who is a Vaishnavi, who is devotee, is an excellent association. She can, in fact, deliver you. So, women who know Krishna, this is a discussion that I just had with my brother the other day, who had taken some association to Tamal Krishna Maharaj when he was present in physically in this world. He sent a message. He said, women who know Krishna takes everyone to Krishna. She shows them the path out of the three folds of miseries because she is trained. Women who have no devotional inclination leads one to the royal road to hell via debauchery and overindulgence. In other words, if you associate with a woman who is non-devotional, she will teach you stuff that you're not meant to know. Debauchery is a person who lusts after other women, and even if they are wives of other men. And overindulgence means enjoying the senses for one's own personal selfish needs in excess. So then he continues to tell me devotees are none other than the expansion of Krishna's mercy potency. So Krishna, who is Karuna Sindhu, he sends his devotees in all shapes and sizes in the form of mercy. Mercy is somebody who can deliver you from the clutches of Maya, it can deliver you back to Godhead all the way. So ladies are also soldiers created by Lady Vaishnavis, soldiers created by Srila Prabhupada for the same reason. Then he sent another message saying, spending even a moment with a devotee is good luck beyond description. Spending even a moment with a devotee is good luck beyond description, whether you're male or female. Because this material ocean is very hard to find a devotee anywhere. And seeking shelter with Krishna means seeking shelter with a devotee of Lord Krishna, whether she is male or female. So we've got all these ladies who are coming to the temple, or who are involved in devotional service. They are not meant to be seen in the same light as the ladies who are non-devotional. That was the whole point, and Srila Prabhupada went back and preached to the brahmacharis that what was the context in what he had taught them. There is a difference between a devotee lady, a devotee woman, and a non-devotee woman, a non-devotee. A devotee woman will lead you to the path of spirituality. And a non-devotee woman would lead you to a path of material nature. So, then I also listened to a little bit of a class from His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, because he's quite heavy in this. These classes are quite heavy or quite interesting, fascinating in how he preaches to the boys. So I'm going to, read a few things from what he had said. Now, he said contaminated women. Now, contaminated women are those women who freely associate with men outside. And they move from one man to another. They are contaminated. And they are responsible for destroying the Varnashram system. Which means that in our spiritual scriptures, according to our Vedic scriptures, we have an established Varnashram system, where there's a brahmachari, there's a householder, then there's vanaprasth, and then finally there's sannyas. There are certain orders of life. But as you can see, these things are not observed outside in the material world. Now, the Varnashram system that has been established in our Vedic life is a perfect society for social classes. It really differentiates who is doing what and where. And there are certain directions that has been established for women, especially by Narad Muni himself. And for those people who need enlightenment, people who are interested to know what is the position of women in society, in our ISKCON society. Now, this is leading to how we actually train our ladies. So they are the kind of women who one can speak to or associate with. In other words, when the brahmacharis or the sannyasi level, they keep their distance from women. What kind of training these women have? I mean, there are certain kind of training that a woman can get in order to be brought up to the standard of being able to be associated with, in terms of having the proper etiquette, Vedic training, Vedic culture. So what Prabhupada really did was he established in our ISKCON society an example that we can present to the world. Because right now, the training that's going outside is so, it's all about freedom, it's all about women's lib, and it's all about free sexuality and, expressing yourself whichever way. Everything has gone crazy and haywire. Nobody knows who is what. I mean, children in a school, they don't know sometimes whether they're a boy or a girl. They just don't know, because anything goes these days. So our Krishna consciousness is meant for giving an example to the world. And we'll be subjected to criticism too. We need to be able to withstand that criticism, that the criticism will be out, we are out of sync with this world, like we're not walking with the modern times. So we need to be able to withstand it. Because everybody wants to work with a modern way of life. And we will be challenged. That is, that our practices are no longer, practical, and that we have to keep up with the modern times. But Srila Prabhupada, he taught us, Vedic scriptures, Vedic principles are not meant to be compromised to accept the modern way of life. So then the question arises, because there are challenges, and we can even ask why, 1 in 2 marriages end up in divorce. Child criminality is more and more on the increase. The outside world, they have to explain and give us the solutions. Because the society is deteriorating, and there are more and more crimes and abuse for women, and children. And they have these problems. I mean, you can read the news. I mean, India, there's some very horrific stories about abuse, not just India, all over the world. Right now in Kali Yuga, it's going on. Many innocent women and children are being killed and abused in the worst possible way. explain solutions, find solutions for that, for these problems. We have in our Vedic system, Varnashram system, the solution. And we have to be able to be strong enough to actually present our Varnashram system in such a way that present it to the world and say, here is the solution for all these problems. For the divorces that's happening, for the child criminality that's happening, for the women abuse for women is happening, this is the solution. And then, women, our Vedic scripture tells us, women are the greatest wealth of the society. Women are the greatest wealth of the society, and they are meant to be protected as though they are the greatest wealth. I mean, if you have got some precious jewels, you are not going to abuse those jewels and chuck it somewhere. You are going to take care of them. Why you'll take care of these women as a precious wealth is because then they will contribute to the welfare of the family. They will be contributing very nicely to the household life. And the household way of life makes up majority of the society. So a very integral, very important part of our society they are very important part of our society. They need to be trained well. They need to be protected. What does it mean to be protected? It means protection means to be bringing up women in a Vedic system, in a Krishna conscious environment, in a spiritual environment with spiritual training. And one might say, well, the question was that, the brahmacharis need to stay away from women. Why am I, putting the responsibility on women to be, trained, when it is the brahmacharis who have to stay away? Actually, there are duties for both. The duties are there for both the brahmacharis and the ladies. And that's why Srila Prabhupada made a brahmacharini ashram, although it is never heard of in India, a brahmacharini ashram, because the duties and the training and the spiritual training requires both to be trained. We can't have a one-way street. So in the days of preaching in Srila Prabhupada's days, when he was here present physically, he made this brahmacharini ashram to teach our girls the Vedic way of life. Now, if we don't have that, then the girls are not taught. Because what's happened in the Kali Yuga right now is in the average householder, they're not Krishna conscious. So the girls are not being trained in a Krishna conscious way. And so there's a huge imbalance. So our temples, Srila Prabhupada designed to have these girls trained so that we can have a balance. The training is given not just to brahmacharis, but to brahmacharinis. It's a very important aspect because it says in the Vedic scriptures that our ladies, our women are the wealth of society and they must be protected. Now, if they happen to be lucky enough to be in a household that is Krishna conscious, well and good. But what of those ladies who are not and they require this spiritual training? And we, in the guise of avoiding ladies, we leave them to the clutches of Maya to be destroyed. And what happens is when ladies get contaminated, the society gets further destroyed. So, not treating ladies properly in a Vedic sense, training them properly in the Vedic way is a huge contribution to the destruction of the society. What we are doing is relying on some, Vaishnava householders to train their girls up. But unfortunately in Kali Yuga, you will not find many householders who are Vaishnavas. So Srila Prabhupada made this This was actually given in a class, in Tamal Krishna Maharaja's class. So he stressed the need to have brahmacharini ashram to train our Vaishnavis, so in a spiritual way of life, lest they get contaminated outside, because there isn't any system in their own personal households to be trained up spiritually. And that is protection for women, and that is protection of our varnashram system. So, and the duties of these ladies, what is it? I mean, what do I mean by spiritual training in a brahmacharini ashram is they get trained up nicely in worshipping the Lord. Because when ladies worship the Lord, they are trained in something that is so important. And what is that? That is called chastity. Chastity, if the ladies are left outside without any untrained and spiritual life, they're going to be unchaste, and the society is going to go crazy. There's havoc everywhere. So Srila Prabhupada established all this. What is chastity? A chastity is being faithful to one's husband, being faithful to one's husband's family, relatives, children, how to serve the Guru nicely. All these needs to be taught. They're not born to be taught, because the society has been so dismantled that knowledge is lost, and it's there in our Vedic scriptures which Prabhupada has revived. So it becomes the duty of our leaders and our administrators to be able to provide that. Now, those ladies who already belong to a household which is practicing Vaishnavism, who already have the system established, they don't need to be in a brahmacharini ashram. They don't need the training. But there are those girls, our girls in the society, who we preach to, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us this holy name to deliver all the souls. He has not discriminated. He even delivered a dog. So what to speak of women? So the most important quality that has to be taught to the girls is chastity. Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear. And we can do that in our temple, in our system. And if our leaders, our administrators neglect this particular solution to preserving varnashram in our society by training our ladies on chastity, if they neglect this, they do away with the brahmacharini ashram, then destruction is near in our society, not far. And they would be basically going against the grain of Srila Prabhupada. Chastity being the basic principle is to always favorably disposed towards her husband, family, relatives, the vows of marriage. Now, the modern education system right now is going opposite to the point. There's women's lib and there's illicit sex. There's no training towards chastity in our education system. I know this for a fact because I've been a teacher in a high school. And this kind of thing has gone so serious that to the point that these teachers are told, instructed to give sex education to the kids in high school. I was told, and they call it in Fiji, family life. And it was a subject that was imperative to be taught to our kids, teaching them about sex. Now, I did not take it too kindly, when I don't support it. And at that time, I hadn't really looked up Srila Prabhupada's views on this. But when I was listening to Tamal Krishna Maharaja's class the other day, I came to know what Srila Prabhupada thought about this particular point of teaching sex education to children and kids. Srila Prabhupada's view is, don't teach it, it's not necessary. Why? He said, well, actually, animals already know. If animals know all about sex life, you think intelligent human beings won't know about sex life? So he didn't support it. And when I was told to teach this in high school to my kids, I was not okay with it either. This was instinctively, I was not okay with it. I didn't know that that's Srila Prabhupada's views. So in my classes, I refused to teach them. I never did. I taught them about how to respect their parents. In that my family life class, I taught them about bullying. It's wrong to bully people. I taught them about, it's wrong to take drugs, wrong to take intoxication. So I designed my classes to train them on good behavior, good practices, rather than teaching them all about sex life, which really I think that my kids in school would probably know more about it than I did. I also took that opportunity to show them videos on Lord Krishna's pastimes. I was teaching the Fijian kids and native Fijian kids, and they know all about Krishna now in my school. And one of them turned out to be a devotee, and is initiated by His Holiness with Shyamapriya Mataji today. Out of that preaching that I did, which I'm quite proud of him, because I refused to say that I had actually had a hand in his preaching. But anyway, he came out to become a devotee, nice devotee, from that school I taught. The Fijian kids, they know Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. One of them was very fascinated with Lord Balaram, because Lord Balaram has this unique form of the snake, Anantasesha. And he used to keep coming to me about Anantasesha. He's a little native Fijian boy. But they all know Krishna, and they were very impressed with his, Vala for fighting and, killing demons. He was their hero. And they were very interested in, because native Fijians are very much into fighting, and, they have very hot blood. And, they're like Kshatriyas. They take a rugby ball and run around, and they, wrestle with each other. They're very active, and presenting them with Lord Krishna's physical activities about killing and how he, handles all these demons. So I taught them during my family life class. I refused to give them, I didn't really have much to contribute for sex education, but I think that was quite good. So then those kids ended up saying, instead of good morning, miss, they used to say, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, miss. And my name changed. My name changed to Haribol in that school. Anyway, so that's a little bit about what the society is, the modern education system. So our Vedic system needs to be imbibed in that. In Kali Yuga, it is very important these days. The norm, the practice is they recognize marriage partner in terms of how expert that person is in sex life. It's a fact. And the whole society is directed in this way. You look at the clothes, you look at the fashion, you look at movies, you look at advertisements, you switch on a TV. It's all designed to have this attraction for sex life, which does not really contribute to a nice and peaceful society. Nor does it do much to teach us about chastity. So how much mentality we can change? It depends on the example we give to this world, and how we can actually withstand this criticism that comes across to us. Now, advanced devotees, they try to, cultivate this control of senses and certain activities, which is to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. So when we kind of minimize these qualities, then we actually become more advanced spiritually. Like Srila Prabhupada, if you take him, his sleeping was minimized. Right in India, I think he only slept for 1 or 2 hours towards the end when he was translating all the books that we are reading. He very minimum sleep. Eating minimized, mating non-existent. He was a sannyas, renounced. Defending, he didn't need to. Krishna was doing his defense. So advanced devotees, and how much we can actually minimize as a person, as a brahmachari or a householder or a vanaprastha sannyas, it depends on our individual pace and abilities. So no, there is no force, because that won't work. But there is definitely a need to be able to control the senses, and it depends individually. some have no difficulty actually. Some just take it, like a duck to water. And it's proven. There was sannyasis in the 1970s when Srila Prabhupada was establishing a movement. It had already been established, of course, but he turned so many young boys, or in their early 20s, they were sannyasis. They had no difficulty in controlling senses and the activities. But then there are others who are gradual. And so for those who, have this gradual need, they can't just, drop it. There is the system, the varnashram system. You become a brahmachari till the age of 25, where you strictly practice serving the guru with all purity, and you dissociate with the women. And then after the age of 25, you can take permission from your bona fide spiritual master, who will give you the permission to get married, because it is, something that a spiritual master can do. I can give you that permission to get married. And then you have a household life, a grihastha life. Now, even within the grihastha life, these Vedic scriptures has certain guidelines and regulations, so that you don't overindulge your senses. You procreate, devotee children, and you live by certain rules and standards as a devotee. Excuse me. And then, after 50, then you, after your children have been born and all those, you dissociate, or you leave the sex life behind. Obviously, you won't be doing any of those things. Even, below the age of 50, you have that kind of life to create children. But what a householder does is basically practices spiritual life and contributes to the society, because the householders make up majority of the society. So they lead a Krishna conscious life in and worship our Lord Krishna, and serving the Guru, and nurturing devotee children for our society. So the householders have a big contribution, and that's why it is important to train up our ladies. Because if they don't happen to have a devotee family, then they should really be allowed, as Prabhupada had said, and as Tamal Krishna Maharaj had said, be allowed to train in a temple environment, in the Brahmacharini ashram. Actually, in this temple, in Radha Gopinath temple, 20 years ago, was it 15 years ago, there used to be lots of ladies, Australian ladies, Aussie ladies, I might say white without being racist, but skin color. I mean, they were like born and bred Aussie ladies, Australian, not Indian, not any other culture, maybe from Peru, maybe from Russia. There were a lot of them. We had bunker beds in the Brahmacharini ashram. There's like 20 sometimes, especially during the marathon, during Christmas time. These ladies are now grihasthas and are very well-trained devotees, and have dispersed in many parts of the world, and they're very excellent devotees, disciples of Indra Maharaj and other Guru Maharajas. So this temple had that, and I was part of that Brahmachari in those days. Those were good times, fun times. Anyway, so that's Varnashram. Now, why do we want that? Why do we want to, refrain from sex life or whatever it is? Why do we want this training? It's because the ultimate goal of life is to practice devotional service, and the result is Gyan and Vairagya, which is Bhakti Yoga. The combination of Gyan and Vairagya is Bhakti Yoga, and these things are transcendental knowledge. There's no sex life involved. The senses enjoyment is not there. And we kind of detach from sense enjoyment. So we can actually focus on Krishna and devotional life. And the mind becomes peaceful. So that's why a brahmachari stays away from ladies, is so that his mind is peaceful. And his senses are controlled. And it's easier to chant Hare Krishna. Actually, it's easier to chant Hare Krishna when your mind is peaceful. So those who are wondering, why is my chanting not so good And they keep asking this. Every class has this question, how can we improve our chanting? How can we improve our chanting? Well, your mind needs to be peaceful. What is making your mind not peaceful? That's the cause. You have to examine, take a look at it. For a brahmachari, maybe your mind is on women. Who knows? I mean, this is just a small example. It could be some other reasons too. I mean, you could have anxiety due to finance, or anxiety due to family life, anxiety at work. The whole point is that your mind is not peaceful, and that's why your chanting is not happening, or it's not quality. Your focus is not there. So then that brings us to the duties of the brahmachari and sannyasis, because we know that the duties of a woman, or Vaishnavi, is to be chaste, to be trained up in the Vedic system. But what is the duty of the brahmachari or sannyasi? It's to give up unnecessary talking with women. That doesn't mean that you abuse them, or say, or kick them out of the temple and say, well, you are a hindrance. No. It is your self-control. It is your responsibility to control your senses. Just like Srila Prabhupada did. These are our acharyas. They have set the pace, and we have to follow in their footsteps. Prabhupada never said, never told his lady disciples to, leave the temple or leave the vicinity where he is. He never did. And it is up to us to follow Srila Prabhupada's footsteps. So the duties of brahmachari and sannyasi is to give up unnecessary talking with women, because then it's described that a woman is like fire and a man is like butter. So the closer you get to a woman, the more you will melt. And, your tapasya will be all destroyed. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj actually made this joke. It is very funny. He said, but brahmacharis and sannyasis should stamp on their forehead, keep cool, keep cool. Which means you have to stay cool like a butter, so that it won't melt. You have to keep cool, just like butter is put in the fridge or the freezer, and then it doesn't melt. So you dissociate with women. Talking with women is, minimized. And therefore you will not melt. But that doesn't mean that you remove the women. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was going to, anyway, we will not discuss that. There was something that he was going to do, but anyway. So, minimizing this association keeps the mind peaceful, and the brahmachari can serve Guru. And the duty is to serve Guru and Krishna. So then, another thing he had said, because the question arises, how do we, even though we this is a question probably a lot of brahmacharis ask, how do we tolerate? Because, the tendency to have sex life is great. So how do we tolerate the reduction of it? And the example or the description that Tamal Krishna Maharaj had said, it's like rubbing two hands together to remove an itch. That's what it is. It's nothing more. But you've got to come to that stage where you think, oh, well, it's just something that's like an itch. It is not going to help anyone. It is just a mental concoction. That is, you need to bring your thoughts, control your mind to bring your thoughts. And he gave this really funny example of this young man who was in a cinema, and the cinema was, the lights were off and it was dark, and somebody touched his hand next to him, and he thought it was a beautiful young woman. So this is what sex life, he's trying to compare the need for sex life and what this, he said, because it's a mental concoction, right? So it's hard to tolerate. So he's giving this example. This young man is touched in the cinema, and he starts thinking, because the lights are off, he says, this is a beautiful girl who's touched me, and he thinks all kinds of things while sitting in the cinema, to the point that he's married himself practically to the girl. And then the lights go on, and guess who it was? It was just an old man sitting next to him. It was an old man. So he said that's what sex life is all about. It's really no big deal, and it's it's just it's a mental concoction, just and each. So we should learn to tolerate this mental disturbance, he said. And go for marriage. Marriage is for dharma, to execute religious duties. Lord Krishna has actually given us the most perfect example in the epic of Ramayana. When the Ramayana is there, Lord Ram and Sita Devi had this fantastic example of how to behave and uphold all religion and dharma, keep dharma. But in terms of chastity, it is so fantastic that it even brings down the Trinity. There's a perfect example of Anasuya, the pastime of Anasuya. She was known for her chastity. This is a story for the ladies. Anasuya was so chaste that she was envied by Parvati Devi herself and Lakshmi Devi, and Saraswati was the consort of Lord Brahma. They were very envious of Anasuya because she was so chaste. Anasuya was the wife of Atri Muni. And so, they decided, she can't be more chaste than us. I mean, Lakshmi Devi is so chaste. They sent their husbands down to test the chastity of Atri's Muni's wife, Anasuya. So Lord Vishnu, Brahma, Mahesh, which is Lord Shiva, came down to test Anasuya and said to Anasuya, you've got to serve us, but our condition is that you've got to serve us naked, no clothes. And Anasuya thought, being so chaste, she said, what to do? And this is Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. And I've got to, in a dilemma. So she just went and consulted her husband, Atri Muni, and he said, they're the Trinity, they're God. So they came up with this wonderful plan. She said, yes, I'm going to take my clothes off for you and serve you, but you have to become my children, babies. So Vishnu and Lord Vishnu, who's Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva became like babies, less than 6 months old. And Anasuya immediately removed her clothes to give them some of her breast milk, because it is okay for a mother to undress before her child. And she breastfed them and served them very nicely, and without losing her chastity. And then the ladies, Lakshmi Devi, Parvati Devi, Saraswati, they started looking for their husband. Where have they gone? We've got to go and find them. So they went, and when they went down, they saw their husbands were little babies. They said, no, this can't happen, you've got to return our husbands. So then that it was decided that Lord Vishnu, Brahma, and Lord Shiva would remain as their children in the form of expansions. Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva returned to their wives, but the babies, the expansions, remained. Lord Vishnu was Dattatreya, and Lord Brahma was Chandra, the moon, and Lord Shiva was Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was the sage who gave, in the Mahabharata, Kunti Devi, he gave Kunti Devi those boons whereby she could receive a child from the demigods. So in that event, because Pandu could not produce kids because of the curse he was given that he shall die, so Durvasa Muni gave this boon to Kunti that she can produce from any demigod. So she had Karna, Karna from the sun god, and Arjun from Lord Indra, and Bhim from the wind god, and so on. So that's Durvasa Muni, and he was the child of this very chaste lady, Anasuya. So that's the story. But the whole point in this very interesting topic, which I could go on and on, is the brahmacharis, refraining from women. Please refrain from women who are not into devotional service, but please respect women who are Vaishnavis, because they can deliver you back to Godhead. They are highly worshipable ladies. It depends on how long they've been trained, how long they've been devotees, who their spiritual master is, what their sadhana is. And to the administrators and to the management, it is your duty to train ladies in the chastity department if their households don't have it. Srila Prabhupada has established the Brahmacharini ashram so that our society does not get destroyed because our women are left out on the streets without any proper spiritual or Vedic training. That was the whole point. And we must follow our acharyas. We cannot bend the rules to suit ourselves. That will be the class for today. If there was anybody present, I would have asked them if any questions, but thank you for attending. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Puran Ki Jai.